Prowl 1701 here, and today we're going to be reviewing the 4th Doctor story, Creature from the Pit. Now, this is only the second time I've ever seen this story. I saw it for the first time when the Season 17 box set came out originally, which was a couple years ago at this point. But I wanted to give it a rewatch, and there are actually several stories. This is actually picked by my patrons and my YouTube members. I did a vote asking what season they would like me to do a review on. Season 17 won, and then I gave them the option of Creature from the Pit and Nightmare of Eden, because those are the only stories from that season I had only seen once. And they voted for Creature from the Pit. I mentioned in my original reviews for this story that I thought it was an underrated story with some marvelous scenes and one truly amazing scene. And having rewatched it, I stand by that. I stand by that choice. I think Creature from the Pit is a fantastic story. Not just a good story. I think it's a fantastic story. It is hurt a little bit by its budget. We'll get to that. I think the writing is good. I think the cast is good. And I think Tom Baker is just on fire in this. This is... Tom has so many good performances as the Doctor. It's hard to pick a definitive performance by him, but he is firing on all thrusters in this. Like, I don't know what Tom actually thought of the script for this story, but man, he throws everything into it. It just feels like he puts 100% into this one. Maybe it's because, you know, him and Lala are just head over heels for each other at this point, and he is so into everything that's going on, but everything he is doing in this story, I love. I love the dialogue. It is very humorous, very Douglas Adams, and he is the script editor, of course, for this season. And I feel like a lot of his dialogue is just peppered into this. Tom's Doctor, one of the reasons I love the 4th Doctor, I mean, the 4th Doctor is my favorite Doctor, and one of the reasons is his witticisms, how witty he is, the way he says things, and the clever things that he says. And there's a lot of this in this story where he has a lot of quips and things he says, and the manner in which he says them that are just, I was falling in love with, absolutely falling in love with. I think the best scene is the scene that I've talked about before with the Doctor at about the first 6 or 7 minutes of part 4, when the Doctor is confronting Lady Andresta. I can never get her name right, but I'm going to call her Andresta, because her name is really, really, really irksome. When he's confronting her, my sinuses are acting up, the weather's changing, and he basically turns everyone against her, basically, how he takes command of the room, and by the end of the conversation, even the people who are supposed to be loyal to her are like, wait a second. That scene is one of the 4th Doctor's best scenes. It's right up there with the Do I Have the Right speech. It truly is, because Tom puts in such a good performance there. I'm going to actually go over notes I have, which I'll touch on that again, but his performance there is phenomenal. And credit to was it Myra, I think is her name, who's playing the Lady Andresta, or Andrasta, or however you say her name. Because she's putting in a good performance as well, and I'll touch on that when I come back to this scene. But that scene is just phenomenal. Now, as a whole, my favorite episode as a whole is episode 1. Matter of fact, I'd say episode 4 is my least favorite. It's the weakest, but not like Hand of Fear Part 4 weakest. My favorite episode is the first one. I really loved. I remember coming off the first episode and just loving this story. Not just liking this story, not just thinking it's good, but just full-blown loving this story at the end of part 1. I still think it's a fantastic story, but part 1 had me just so in love with it. It's so good. I have some notes here I'm going to talk about that kind of sum it up. We're going to look at the first episode. The first thing I wrote down was, I love the film look. Obviously, a lot of the first episode is shot on film. And of course, unfortunately, the film elements themselves don't survive. We can tell it's not the original film elements. But it definitely is shot on film. I'm assuming the bits shot in the jungle, where a lot of episode 1 takes place, was shot on a big set. Because it's very obviously a set, not location shooting. possibly shot at Ealing. I know they used Ealing Studios for some of the big sets, like I think they used it for the jungle from Planet of Evil, which is, of course, an amazing set. So I feel like they did that here. The jungle set was probably shot somewhere like Ealing, shot on film. And it looks good. I love the camera work also in that. I love the camera work in the story as a whole, but especially in episode 1, when the Doctor and Romana are exploring the planet, when he's checking the eggshell, when he's being confronted by the guards. All of that in episode 1 looks fantastic. I absolutely love the film quality there. There's a little bit of it in episode 2, but it's primarily in episode 1, and I really, really was pleased with that. I love Tom Baker's quips there. Like when he's calling for Romana, when he's getting hit by the little shrub dog things. He's like, Romana! Romana, if you could be of some assistance, or whatever he says there, how he gets really quiet when he says it. I like that. And how he's still calling for her. I like when he's in the things and he's turning around and nearly hits her and she has to kind of duck. I love the bit where he gets the guard to scratch his nose and then he hits him, and just the way he convinces him, yeah, just, no, not your nose, no, my nose, no. I love the cliffhanger to episode 1. Episode 1 is the only one with a good cliffhanger. I know I made a note of that in there somewhere. The cliffhanger to episode 1 where Tom jumps down the well is a great cliffhanger. The cliffhangers for episode 2 and 3 are a bit weak, when Tom gets kind of buried under the creature and when they're trying to put the control thing on Arato, whatever he's called. And Andrasta, it really bugs me with her name, is over there. No, I'd never get into either of those cliffhangers. That is a weak part of the story. But I enjoyed the episode 1 cliffhanger a lot. And I just love the way Tom delivers these lines. Like at one point when they're at the pit, you know, she's telling him it's a pit and she's doing her thing. And Myra just looks fantastic. I have to say that. Myra looks fantastic. I love the way she has this thing she does with her eyebrow where she arches her eyebrow that just drives me crazy. She's doing that. We call it the pit. And he makes that comment about you have a way with words. I'm trying to look for it here. Yeah, you have a way with words. I like the way Tom says it. I love that. It's the pit. What do you call it? We call it the pit. And then in episode 2, when they're talking about the creature, what do you call it? We call it the creature. I love that. It's hilarious to me. I really like the jungle set as well. The actual set used primarily in episode 1. I think the set is really well done. It's obviously a set, but it's a really good looking set. I'm not saying it's Planet of Evil jungle set good, but it's really good. I was impressed with it. I really like Romana in episode 1. Lala's putting in a really good performance. That whole bit when she's kind of captured by the bandits and she talks the bandits into not killing her and then releasing her and then tricking them into blowing the whistle to get K9 come in there. That's really, really good. That's one of my favorite Romana 2 moments. And to be fair, I know this was the one they shot first, and she is kind of acting like Romana 1 a little, and I know in the notes it even mentions that's how she was playing it early on. But it works. It actually works. She's dressed up with a little more makeup like Romana 1 too. But just, she's really good in that scene. I really liked Lala Ward in this. And really the first 2 episodes she has more to do. She kind of gets relegated to just kind of being their status, I think, in episodes 3 and 4. But episodes 1 and 2 she has a lot to do. And she really impressed me with this scene right there in episode 1. Moving on to episode 2, I loved the scene when the Doctor is trying to, when he's in the pit, but he's not all the way down, and he's listening to them up top, and he's trying to hammer in the little pins so he can lower himself down and then climb back up with the scarf. I love that bit when he's hammering it in, and he goes, boy, this is harder than it looks. And he pulls out the book to learn how to do it, and he goes, it's in Tibetan. And then he holds the book in this hand, and he pulls out another book, and the book is, what does it say? It's like how to learn Tibetan. He's reading it. It shows the cover. It's how to learn Tibetan. So he's reading this book to learn Tibetan, so he can read this book, so he can learn how to. I love that so much. And that is so the Fourth Doctor. That is so the Fourth Doctor. Of course the Doctor just happens to have a book in his pocket on how to hammer that in. And of course he has a book on how to learn Tibetan just in his pocket so he can pull it out whenever. Of course he does. Of course. I love that. This is one of the reasons why the Fourth Doctor is my favorite Doctor. Just those little whimsical bits of humor. I really feel like you put Tom Baker and Douglas Adams together and they fit together like two pieces of a puzzle better than any pieces of a puzzle ever. They are just perfect. And I loved that moment so much. I literally had to pause. I was laughing so hard. I did make another note here. I was loving Romana in episode 2. I did like how she was trying to stun the guards and get away even though it didn't work. I really like the astrologer guy. I can't remember his name. But he's the one that's also down there in the pit, the kind of older one. I like him because he's also kind of eccentric like the Fourth Doctor, especially in episode 2. Him and the Fourth Doctor, especially the Fourth Doctor, they feel like kindred spirits. And you can tell the Fourth Doctor just takes to him immediately because they are both kind of these eccentric personalities and they seem like they click well together. And I really enjoyed that. The actor playing the astrologer is doing a wonderful job. I really enjoyed him for the most part in the story, especially when they first meet. I do like when there's a little moment right before the cliffhanger of episode 2 when Tom is going to communicate to the creature and the astrologer puts his hand on his arm to try to stop him. And Tom hands him the little candle and then he takes the astrologer's arm off. But when he does, he pats the arm. It's a little thing. It's a little thing. He takes the astrologer's arm off and he kind of pats it and then walks off. It's a very Doctor thing to do, just the way I like that. I don't know why, but I love that. It actually reminds me of something I was saying when I was reviewing some of the Barbara Benedetti fan films. And I mentioned in them, I don't know if this is going out before or after those, but I mentioned in them one of the things I like about her Doctor, which reminds me of other Doctors, and one of the reasons why I really like her as the Doctor, is she does that sometimes when she's talking to a companion or someone else. She'll talk to them, she pats them on the shoulder or the back as she goes. And that struck me when I was watching her, striking me as a very Doctor thing to do. So it's neat, having just watched all 4 of those, to see Tom doing that in this story where he does that. It really struck a chord with me. It's a very Doctor thing to do, even though it's a very minor detail that can easily be overlooked. I absolutely loved it. The creature itself, I think the weakest part of Creature from the Pit is a little bit of its execution with its effects. One thing, for example, the creature isn't the best. Even by Classic Who standards, it isn't the best. It's not as bad as people make it out to be most of the time. There are a few really shots, like when we first see the creature and it's walking forward and it's got the very obvious arm dangling and the phallic nature of it is very apparent. That's unfortunate. But that's, as they said in Behind the Sofa, the part that didn't work. That first shot is very, very bad. And then you see the shot later of Tom trying to communicate with it. The one shot of him, you know the scene I mean. That's unfortunate. And you have to wonder if they did that to Tom on purpose, just to mess with him, and he didn't catch it. Yeah, Tom, we want you to do this, and then we want you to blow into this, and we want you to communicate. He's doing it! He's actually doing it! He's doing it. You wonder if they did that to him on purpose. Just because they were probably fed up with Tom sometimes. A lot of the shots of the creature to me aren't that bad, though. Like, they're Classic Who, and they're not the best of Classic Who, but they're not so bad as the reputation of the story lends them to be, and they're not so bad as those couple of shots I talked about are. Most of them are fine. It's fine. It's nothing great, but it's fine when it comes to the creature itself. I actually have one thing that bugs me more than the creature, but we'll get to that. Part 3, I make a note here that the reprisals are too long, and they are. Episodes 2, 3, and 4, the reprisals at the beginning are too long. Too long. Now, when these originally aired, 1 episode a week, it made a little more sense, but when you're going back and you're watching the story all in one go, I never liked the long reprisals because immediately I have to pull out my remote control and fast forward to get me back to the story, and the reprisals are way too long, and I found that very annoying. I love the bit when Tom just breaks through the eggshell wall, just like most of episode 2 and the beginning of episode 3 or something like that. Actually, I think it's just a good part of episode 3. They're trying to break through that little eggshell wall. K9's trying to shoot through it. Nothing's working. And then they mention how impossible it is to get through, and then Tom just busts through it from the other side. That's hilarious to me. I love that. And I love that bit when Romano's like, oh, are you right? We thought you were dead. And he's like, oh, Time Lords have 90 lives. And she's like, how many have you used? He goes, oh, 130 or so. He goes, oh, about 130. I like that. Time Lords have 90 lives. How many have you used? Oh, about 130. I absolutely love Tom in this story. It's one of his best performances. And he has so many. It's really hard to say best performance. He has so many good performances. But he just seems on fire in this story. There is one problem I have when the Doctor stuns the guards with the mirror, when he pulls that trick, when the lady Andrasta is sitting there constantly saying, point the dog at the wall, which that part I'll at least give her a little credit. She's a little clever on. And the Doctor does that bit when he gets K9 to shoot the mirror. That takes too long. There's no way the lady Andrasta or whatever would have let them do that. She would have been like, cut the mirror down, get him, don't let him shoot. That bit takes too long. If they had executed that a little faster with Tom sneaking the mirror out, K9 shooting it and stunning all the guards, it would have worked better. The setup for it takes too long. I feel like she wouldn't have just stood there and let that happen. That did bug me that that setup took a little too long to pull off. I mentioned here cliffhangers 2 and 3 are weak. We've talked about that. Oh yeah, something I liked about the beginning of part 4. When the Doctor's first touching the control unit before he realizes that Arato can speak through him, and it's speaking with his voice, and he's sitting there trying to explain, that wasn't me talking. That bit about saying, do not be frightened and alarmed, that wasn't me. It wasn't you, no. I was too busy being frightened and alarmed. I love that. That's hilarious to me. That bit that was saying, don't be frightened and alarmed? Yes, that wasn't me. No, I was too busy being frightened and alarmed. First off, the actual dialogue of that is hilarious. Secondly, the way Tom plays that is hilarious. I was too busy being frightened and alarmed. I love that. I love the Fourth Doctor so much. Tom just is the Fourth Doctor. He's not playing the Fourth Doctor. He just is the Fourth Doctor. The way he does that just works for me. In the bit that I talked about where he's basically going off on Andrasta, I love that bit about the petty power cravings of that pathetic woman. When he's telling everyone else basically, don't listen to her. He's like, don't listen to the petty power cravings of this pathetic woman. I love that. First off, that's almost a tongue twister. Secondly, the way he delivers that line is like, no, don't listen to her. She has no idea what she's talking about, the petty power cravings of this pathetic woman. I love that. And then, of course, that's when she does the bit about, have a care, Doctor. He goes, you have a care. Care about your people for a change. I love that dialogue. And then there's the bit when he's explaining to them about Arato trying to come there to make the trade for minerals, for metal. And does she put, the welfare of her people over her need for petty power? No. I love the way he does that. No. It's almost teaching, like a teacher. Does she? No. I love that. I actually had to rewind that and watch that like 2 or 3 times. I love that bit. No. I just love how on fire on this. There's nothing in this forest but weeds, forests, and weeds. He takes command of that whole situation. He does what the Doctor does, something a certain blonde-haired doctor we've had recently could take lessons from. It's very obvious the actress playing her didn't watch any of the previous Doctors to learn what she needed to learn about the role, because I would have steered her right to this scene. This is how the Doctor takes command of the room, and takes command almost basically of everyone in the room except her, how he sways everyone to his side. This is being the Doctor 101 right here. And I love that bit afterwards where they're talking to him and he's just going, yes, yes, and then you do this, yes, and then you do this, yes. And he mentions, well, it wouldn't have done anything without its computer drive. I love that. That's funny to me. And then I made a note that the actual ending is a little cheesy. The ending of that part 4 falls apart a little bit for me in the story. It is the weakest episode. And part of that is, I don't like that they killed the Lady Androstra. I hate saying that. So early. Because she dies about 7 minutes into the episode or something like that. I was kind of surprised. And then the rest of the episode, it brings in a whole new plot point of the destruction of the planet coming. Because the people where Aruto are from have sent like a supernova or something toward the planet that will destroy it. A whole new plot point. And now the Doctor's having to come up with Aruto to stop it. And then, of course, the drive gets stolen by the bandits, and the Doctor has to deal with that, which he does cleverly. Even though it does feel like a little bit of filler. But at least it resolves kind of what's going on with the bandits for the most part. The ending scene, and it's really only about the last 5 minutes of the story, really needs some updated effects. When the Doctor and Aruto are diverting this star or solar, whatever this is, when they're diverting it, and he's got it in a tractor beam, and Aruto is weaving the thing around it, the effects there look a little rough. Even Classic Who standards rough. Now the bits when they're in the TARDIS and it kind of does that go out of phase thing it does a couple times, that looks fine. I have no problems with it. It's the exterior shots. And I've actually seen at least one person on YouTube who's done updated effects for it to look much better. The regular shots though, the exterior shots of what's going on outside the TARDIS are a little off-putting. I really think they look rough. Even by Classic Who standards, a little rough. And then right at the end, when the Doctor gives the guy the proclamation, and the astrologer guy who hears I get these people mixed up with these names. The guy who controls the bushes accidentally says, I guess, out loud without realizing he says it out loud. It's like a declaration of trade. And then the astrologer's like, I think it's a declaration of trade. How did you know that? It was written in the stars. That ending is stupid and terrible. First off, like the guy didn't realize he said it out loud. And then it doesn't quite land for me, the humor of him making the reading. And then the bit when he crosses his fingers and okay, I'm going to admit that's pretty stupid. And I didn't really care for that. It's really the only time the astrologer ever really bothers me. But yeah, since that's the actual ending, I was just like, again, episode 4 falls apart a little, especially in the last 5 minutes with some of the effects and that actual ending. It's still good, and that first 6 or 7 minutes of episode 4 are freaking amazing, like top tier Doctor Who amazing, because Tom Baker's just on fire. But I enjoy the story as a whole. Again, my favorite episode was part 1. I love the filmation work. What was obviously shot on film. The work shot on film looks really good. That's a really nice set. So I enjoy Creature from the Pit. I think it's a great story. I think it's a fantastic story. Again, a little weak at the end, but especially throwing in a plot point right there at the end that the Doctor's having to divert this missile. I swear, it feels like the story just needed a little padding out. And that's what they did. They padded it out because it needed it. But I like it. I don't understand the dislike for this story. Because for me, the weak budget only shows in 2 places. The creature, and it's especially bad in those couple places we mentioned. But other than that, I think it's fine. It's not great, it's fine. It works. And then the special effects shots at the end when they're in space having to divert the star. It looks kind of bad. But other than that, I think it's fine. I enjoy the cast. Myra's doing a great job. The older woman Wither's doing a great job. Tom and Lala are doing fantastic. Again, Tom Baker's putting an amazing performance. I'm always a little irked that it's not John Gleason doing K9. That's obviously not David's fault. David is fine in it. I always have to mentally shift gears to it not being John Gleason, but that's a minor nitpick. I like this story. I don't understand why people don't like this story. I feel like some people don't like this story just because they hear on the internet that other people don't like this story. You know, the reverse of the Wrath of Khan. syndrome, where everybody thinks Wrath of Khan is the best Star Trek movie. Not because they've seen them all, but because the internet says Wrath of Khan is the best Star Trek movie. I think it's the same thing here with Creature from the Pit. It's like a majority of people on the internet go, Creature from the Pit is a bad Doctor Who story, so people read that and go, Creature from the Pit is a bad Doctor Who story. Though granted, I've met other people like myself that think it's vastly underrated. Like all of season 17, or most of season 17, or season 17 as a whole is a better way to put it, because of course City of Death and Shada are held in pretty good regard. But season 17 as a whole is just drastically underrated. So I want to know what you think of Creature from the Pit. Comment down below and let me know. And let me know if you agree with some of the points I've made. Or maybe they've even swayed your opinion a bit. Maybe you want to give it a rewatch. Check it out. It's season 17 box set. Give it another watch. Other things to do. Don't forget to click the like button and the subscribe button. And the bell for notifications so you never miss out on another video. I also have a Patreon. If you would like to become one of my patrons, there's a link to that down in the description below. Several different tiers there to choose from. I want to give a shout out to some of my top tier patrons, Stephen Crane, Colin Coney, and Finn Perkins. I appreciate their support, as I do the support of all of my patrons. It does make a difference. I have a P.O. box down there if there's anything you'd like to send me to look at and review. A link to my Amazon wish list is down there as well. YouTube memberships are now also available if you would like to check that out. And most importantly, thank you for watching.